Greetings and salutations, young true believers. Today we are talking about the last bit of chapter 2, the chapter on the existence of God, and that is the Theodicy of one John Hick. And Hick's Theodicy is actually mentioned, believe it or not, in the Simpsons episode. There's a Simpsons episode where Bart sells his soul to Milhouse for $5, and Bart starts noticing strange things happening. Like he goes to a Quickie Mart and the automatic doors won't open for him. He tries to breathe on the ice cream display case to write an obscene message, and his breath won't fog up the display case. And eventually he starts freaking out and he wants to get his soul back from Milhouse, but he finds out that Milhouse sold his soul to a comic book guy, and the comic book guy sold it to somebody else. So at the end of the episode, Bart's praying. He's like, somebody's got my soul. I don't know who it is. And it finds out that Lisa bought it and she gave it to him. And Lisa tells him, Bart, some philosophers believe that you got to earn your soul through suffering like you did. And that's a reference to John Hick. Hick believes that human beings are created incomplete. We have to earn our souls. We have to earn our salvation. And the only way we can do that is to suffer. Suffering makes us worthy of redemption in his view. And this explains on his view why God allows human beings to suffer. But there are noticeable problems with this theodicy, as there are, again, no one has the last word in a philosophical debate ever. But here are the problems with Hick's theodicy, the soul-making theodicy. One, suffering is just as likely, if not more likely, to make bad people as it is to make good people. Some people can go through trial and tribulation and emerge out the other side as good people. For some people, it turns them into monsters themselves, right? The second big problem, and I think there's an even greater problem for Hick's theodicy, it does not explain natural evil. As we've seen, natural evil is the evil that's caused by suffering and disease. I mean, I suppose Hick would say that, well, no, look, this is necessary as well for human redemption. But there's a further problem. Hick's theodicy cannot explain the suffering of the non-human animals and the plants. And when you look at the biological history of this planet, the vast majority of the suffering endured on this planet has been endured by the non-human animals and the plants. And any theodicy, in my view, that cannot account for their suffering is incomplete. It's wanting, right? It's not satisfactory. So, again, to wrap up this chapter, there is no philosophical argument that can establish the existence of God. There's no philosophical argument that can disprove the existence of God. What are the philosophers of religion debating? They're debating the probabilities that God exists or God does not exist. That's what they're debating. And again, the atheist philosophers think, given the problem of evil and other problems, again, this is an intro, so we won't dive into the other atheist objections, but given the problem of evil in particular, which is their number one argument, they think it's highly unlikely that God exists. The theistic philosophers, the believers on the other hand, they try to establish the possibility that God exists. As Leibniz once argued, if you can just establish the possibility that God exists, then God would exist. I don't know if that follows, but that's Leibniz's argument. So, what are we doing? We're going to transition next week. First bit of next week, we're talking about epistemology, and we might talk about that tomorrow as well. I'm going to post an announcement too tomorrow about the Zoom session for our class tomorrow. I think it helps to have at least one of those a week so we can, it makes the class more personal. Epistemology is the philosophical study of knowledge and what it means to know something. And in the past 400 years, the argument that most people cite as an example of classic epistemology, a classic philosophical approach, is Rene Descartes' famous thought experiment in the Meditations, where he doubts everything that can be doubted. He calls into question every possible thing that he thought he knew. He doubts the existence of his body. He doubts the existence of other minds. He doubts the existence of an external world. He even doubts the existence of God. And he gets down to two possibilities. One, he's dreaming and life is just a dream. Or two, there's a possibility that he's being deceived by an evil demon. And this evil demon has nothing better to do with its time than torment poor old Descartes and make him believe all sorts of things that aren't true. But then Descartes stumbles on it. Bam, right? Eureka, which is Greek for I got it. Descartes realizes, even if it's the case that I'm dreaming, and even if it's the case that a wicked demon is deceiving me, there's something that I cannot doubt. Something is occurring and I cannot doubt it. And what's occurring is that I'm thinking in both cases. Thought itself cannot be doubted. And if I'm thinking, then I must exist. And what am I? I'm a thinking thing, right? And with this discovery, Descartes argues he can bring back the entire edifice, right? This is the foundation, and this is a big deal in epistemology, a view known as foundationalism. Knowledge has foundations. And there's an opposing view called the web of belief, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But Descartes is definitely a foundationalist, and he thinks the I think, therefore I am, or in Latin, cogito ergo sum, is the foundation he needs to bring back everything that he's called into doubt. And once he's done this, he can bring back the external world. He can bring back other minds. He can bring back God. Now, it's extremely important for him to bring back God because Descartes needs God to be a guarantor of the truth of his, what he calls, clear and distinct ideas. And he knows that he can trust God because God, being all good, would by definition not be a deceiver, because God would stand to gain nothing from deceiving us. So we can trust God, and because God made us, Descartes argues, we can trust our clear and distinct ideas. The only way we fall into error, on Descartes' view, is when we try to extend our knowledge beyond what we can know. We resemble God in that we have an unlimited will. We desire to know everything, but we have limited faculties, so we can't know everything. But if we apply our knowledge to what can be known, we'll never fall into error. Now, Descartes is a representative of what's known as the rationalist school of thought with respect to epistemology. And rationalism is the view that true knowledge is certainty, and you don't get certainty through the use of your senses, through your eyes, your nose, your tongue, your ears, your hands, right? Your five senses. You get certainty through the use of reason. So the truths of logic, the truths of mathematics, that's certainty and that's true knowledge, and you can build everything else up from that. In opposition to this view is a view known as empiricism, and in the English-speaking philosophical tradition, empiricism is our philosophical inheritance. Empiricism is the view that all human knowledge begins in sensory experience, and everything else is just it's an extrapolation, right? It's an elaboration upon the knowledge of our senses. So this is what we're going to be talking about for the early part of next week. And again, I'm going to see you tomorrow. I'll post an announcement about the Zoom session, and continue reading, continue watching the videos, listen to the podcast, and we'll hash out any questions you might have tomorrow.